Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Cage. I'm your host, Jim Graham. On today's episode, live, we are going to go over UFC Chile, which was this past weekend as shown on Fox Sports 1 from Santiago, Chile, the first ever non-South American card, or non-Brazilian South American card featured for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. We're going to recap the fights that happened there on the west coast of South America. We're also going to do a preview of Bellator 200 as well as UFC Liverpool, which of course are both in England this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, or if you're from the UK, I believe it's Remembrance Day weekend. So big weekend for mixed martial arts. Once again, I'm your host, Jim Graham. Thanks for joining me here live on MMA World as well as MMA UK Facebook pages. That's facebook.com/MMA World with two extra Ds, as well as facebook.com/Mixed Martial Arts UK. My co-host, normally Kayla Beatty, she is out. We're going to have from MMA UK James Hamilton, so it's going to be James and James or Jim and James. We're going to have two Jameses here this evening or afternoon, wherever you may be. Again, thank you for listening and watching. And like I said, those are the things that we're going to be talking about. So he's going to be joining me here momentarily to talk about all these things. Super excited to cover UFC Chile. I actually thought it was a pretty good night of fights that happened from Santiago. And I'm also, even though we got some, not breaking news, but obviously some news there with Bellator 200 from London, England at the SSE Arena. There's some news there. I still think, even minus the injury, I still think it's a pretty solid card as well. And of course, UFC Liverpool, which feels like we've been waiting for a while. We finally get to see Stephen Thompson against Darren Till. So let me welcome in my co-host for this evening, James Hamilton, painter, down in the comments section, patrolling the comments for us as I welcome in James Hamilton. How you doing, James?
Yeah, good. Sorry, just had to go and get a drink before we went live.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody, James Hamilton, you actually just had an interview over on MMA UK, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, yep. The interview. Yeah, sorry, that was with Scottish featherweight Paul McBain, who will be fighting at Cage Warriors 95 on the 21st of July.
All right. So, yeah, if you haven't seen that interview, go check it out. It's right on the MMA UK Facebook page. I already plugged that earlier. Again, facebook.com/Mixed Martial Arts UK. Cage Warriors 95. So, good job on that. I watched the last probably like 15, 20 minutes of the interview, so good job on that. As we head in here to talking about UFC Chile, we're going to talk mainly about the main card, but I got to give a shout out to someone on the undercard. I got the very first fight of the night, Claudio Piles. I don't know if I said that correct at all, against Felipe Silva. This was a fight where Silva, I thought, was winning the majority of it. A guy they said had really good kickboxing skills. It showed. And then Claudio Piles, really towards the end of the second round, it looked like things were not going very well for him. He was taking a lot of damage. You could see the swelling in his eye. And it goes to the third round. You hear Jimmy Smith's kind of saying, that maybe they should stop this one. I don't think he can take much more. He starts to take more damage entering that third round. It's still not looking good. He's kind of on his side in like a little bit of a paperclip or kind of knee shield type position. And I'm looking at him like, I don't know how much he's with it, but he might be able to roll for a knee bar. Just as I think that, you see him reach for the leg, pull, roll, tuck it in, and he gets the tap, 223 into the third round. I mean, this is a huge comeback victory for Claudio Piles, and he does it with a knee bar. I mean, I thought very impressive. I don't know how this didn't win a performance of the night, James, but I think that young man kind of got robbed, because that was a fantastic performance for a fight where not only was he losing, but he was very close to getting knocked out.
Let me ask you a quick question before we move on. What did you think on the prelim fights versus the main card fights on the card? I've heard a few people saying they favoured the actual prelim fights as opposed to the main card, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Um, I mean, I thought both were entertaining for different ways. I wouldn't really say one was better than the other. Of course, you can say the best fight was on the prelims for sure. I think between Pantoja and Brandon Moreno, I think that's fair. And obviously, we saw that come from behind victory there by Pelez. But I thought the only fight that wasn't maybe that great was probably the Guido Canetti and the Diego Rivas fight. I think that was really, to me, the only fight on the main card I was like, you know, and I think that, like I said in my preview, because both guys, they've had a history of being injured. Obviously, Rivas had cancer, you know, that one thing that kind of derailed his career. So it didn't surprise me to see two guys in there who have only fought a combined, like, I think 7 times in the past 4 or 5 years, you know, that they were going to be a little gassed, that maybe they'd be a little rusty. So that fight didn't surprise me how it went down.
Yeah. Perfect, thanks.
But, yeah, and then we got a whole bunch of comments here. Hang on. So a lot of people checking in saying hi. James Anthony saying the prelims were better. Let's see. Let me see if I can get to some of the other comments here before we get to the main card. We had a question from Lewis. Tom Heffernan wants subtitles for you, I believe. Yeah, Kayla's not here. Let's see. What was it? What did Lewis want? Would you rather kiss Brock Lesnar on the mouth or let Cyborg punch you in the face? I'll take anything not getting hit in the face. So I'll take the other option.
I'd rather let Brock Lesnar kiss me. No homo. Just to be clear.
And here's the thing, though. Could you really do something to Brock Lesnar if he really wanted to? You know what I mean? Like, would you really have much of a choice anyway?
No, of course you could. There's a Joe Rogan bit about Brock Lesnar out there that sort of goes along those lines. But no, you couldn't do a damn thing. No, of course not.
All right, let's get to this main card here. Let's see. First fight of the evening. I was very impressed with Vicente Luque's performance against Chad Laprise. Obviously, I'm very high in Vicente Luque. I have been since the Ultimate Fighter. I think that was 21, if I math correctly. That was the ATT Black Zillion season. And here's the thing. Chad Laprise is good. But for some reason, James, I've never really just liked Chad Laprise. I don't know why that is. I'm sure he's a very nice guy. I've never met him. You know, he had 4 straight wins coming into this. I think all of them were by finish, or at least 3 of them were. So the guy has very definite skills. I'm not doubting his skills, but just for whatever reason, I just never thought he was that good. So for this, you know, I don't know why that is, but this fight, actually, as I thought it would be, very evenly matched. It really was just the case of you saw Luque being able to catch that counter left hook right on the chin, and this is what the guy does. He's able to catch a lot of people, and when he has a chance to finish, he puts you away and did not let Laprise come back into this fight.
No, it was, and I mean, if you watched it, when you watched the hook back in replay, it really didn't look like there was any power behind it. It just looked like it was just precise. It was a short hook, and it didn't look that powerful, but it's just the way it caught Chad. And you sort of seen early in the fight, Chad Laprise was moving. He was sort of hunched down. He was trying to keep that chin tucked away, but obviously Luque found it and put him away. And I can totally understand what you're saying about Chad Laprise. I think sometimes fighters get lost in the shuffle and they don't stand out in any way, just because there's so much fighters now in the UFC. And I think that's sort of something that's happened to Chad Laprise. He's just, not many people know who he is, and the ones that do, he doesn't stand out. To your point earlier.
And of course, Luque gets another win. I believe, like I said, I think this is his. Let me double check on this. I think it's his 5th. Let's see. It's his 6th win in the UFC, and he has won 6 out of his last 7 fights. His only loss was a decision to Leon Edwards, who, as we all know, is a very good fighter. And in that fight, definitely showed that he was the better stand-up fighter in that fight and did a great job of stopping the takedown. So that's not a bad loss by any means, and obviously did not get finished. So I think for Vicente Luque, I would say probably taking on someone probably close to Edwards in terms of like rank. I think Edwards is in that bottom half of the top 10 in the top 15. So I would say somewhere around there, probably for Luque next, because I think he's earned it. I think winning 6 out of his last 7 fights and all 6 of those wins are by finish, I
Yeah.
think he deserves a top quality opponent.
Yeah, I mean, losing to Edwards, as you say, it's not obviously Edwards is fighting Cerrone as well. Yeah, I would agree with that. He needs to just keep slowly moving up, just fighting a bit tougher and a bit higher ranked. But losing to Edwards is there's no shame in that. He's a really good fighter. Just while you've mentioned his name, keep an eye out, guys, for a guy called Fabian Edwards as well, Leon's brother. Very, very talented fighter,
Yeah.
undefeated.
Next fight of the evening was in the women's flyweight division, the long-anticipated debut of Andrea KGB Lee, former Legacy champion, as well as Invicta standout, finally making her debut, taking on Veronica Macedo, who it was her second appearance in the UFC, but it had been about 18 months since we had last seen her, and that was up a weight class against Ashley Evans-Smith. This time around, I think we saw a lot more from Macedo. I think, one, it was in her natural weight class, and two, probably felt a lot more at home fighting in South America because she's from Venezuela, as opposed to flying halfway around the world to Germany. I'm sure that had, and it wasn't her UFC debut, so I'm sure that had a lot to do with it as well. But taking on Andrea Lee is a tough answer, I think, for anyone in this division. I think she really showcased her litany of skills. I mean, she's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. She showed off those skills tremendously. She has really good kickboxing, former kickboxing and Muay Thai champion. She showed those skills as well. And while Macedo had a couple of moments, a couple of glimpses here and there, a little bit with the grappling, maybe a couple of times with overhand right, more times than not, though, James, Andrea had an answer and was really, to me, able to set the tone this fight very early and often. And I think towards the end, Macedo was kind of beat maybe a little bit mentally, and you could tell that she was trying, but just is probably just not as talented as Andrea Lee.
Yeah, I would agree. Lee's just looked all round a better fighter. Obviously, Macedo had some success, especially in the first round. I think she landed 2 straight head kicks that landed and sort of wobbled me. But
yeah, that was probably her best moment. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, what you've seen for Lee's as well is judo. She was doing well with throws. I just think overall she was stronger in the grappling, and I think that's what made the difference in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, she was 3 of 5 on her takedowns. You back that up with the striking numbers as she struck the Venezuelan 87-42, almost doubled those numbers. And I think for Andrea Lee, this was a good opponent to kind of get her feet wet because it had been a while since we had seen her in Invicta or Legacy. She had a little bit of a layoff. I think she had some injury issues. So finally got her in the UFC. She showcased, I think, very good skills. And I think she's a girl instantly. I know that it's pretty much a brand new division.
Yeah.
But to me, instantly, she's a title contender, in my opinion. I'm not saying her next fight should be for the title, but I mean, in my opinion, she wins one more fight with her name, with her skills. I think if she could take on someone towards the top, we could see her possibly fighting for a title very soon, possibly even this year.
But yeah, I would like it, with the division being so new, you tend to find that the path to the title is very open. Whether she'll win the title and hold the title, who knows? You just need to wait and see how the division shakes out. But yeah, I think she's definitely somebody that will probably contest for that belt, and probably not too distant future.
All right, as I kind of mentioned, this fight probably not the greatest on the card. Like I said, I mentioned a couple of different reasons for it, but Guido Canetti ends up getting the win. I think this was a fight where I think Rivas was really happy to be there. You know, fighting in his home country, the fact it was the first time back in the UFC in almost 2 years. I think he was just happy to be there, and I think that's the sense I really got from him because in that third round, he had to know he was down 2 rounds to none. Canetti, to me, in my opinion, easily took those first 2 rounds.
Yep.
He just never really pulled the trigger in that third round. You could tell Canetti was tired. You could tell that a guy not known for his grappling, grappled a lot in those first 10 minutes. He's 38 years old, too. Like I said, you could tell he was tired, but Rivas never really took advantage of it. Probably won the third round, but it wasn't enough, and he ends up losing, much to the chagrin of the Chilean crowd there. But I think this was a fight where Rivas was just happy to be back in the UFC and just never really pulled the trigger on everything. Yeah. Just tried to really, to me, play it safe, and not get hurt for a guy that has had a lot of injury problems. And it's not a surprise to me that he ended up losing this fight.
Something I heard in the fight that I just couldn't understand was obviously after when the bell goes after the second round, they go to their corners, and Rivas's corner, they told him he had to win that round. Now, I don't know what fight they were watching, but it was pretty clear as day he didn't have to win that round. He had to finish that fight. So I just didn't understand why the corner didn't try and press that home to the fighter. I just that was crazy to me. The corner, I believe, should have been telling me to go out there and just put everything, put it all out there and try and finish the fight. Cause it's great fighting in front of your home fans, but why the hell would you not want to try and win in front of your home fans? And unfortunately, he was the only Chilean guy in the card, but it was, like I say, probably the most forgettable fight.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Rivas is going to have to kind of think about, because like I said, he's down 2-0. There's a good chance he probably never fights in his home country again in the UFC banner. That's a very real possibility. And it's, like I said, first fight back in almost 2 years. He needs a finish. I don't know what more motivation you need to go and get a finish under, if you look at circumstances for a fight, what could cause you to really amp up? That's it. That's what would cause you to amp up, and he never did.
I mean, if you're not motivated to go out there and put a performance on in front of your home crowd, I genuinely don't know what does motivate you. And if it was one of those ones you went out and lost a fight, but it was a really exciting fight, then you can go, okay, right. But for the UFC perspective, if guys aren't putting on entertaining fights, a lot of times, I mean, they cut Yair Rodriguez recently.
Right.
So that should be sort of a shot across the bow to get a lot of fighters. Whether it's right or wrong, you need to give the UFC a reason to keep you on their books.
Absolutely. Let's see. Lewis brought up the Verdum thing. We'll get to the Verdum thing. I want to do that in between kind of events, but that's a good point. I do want to talk about that briefly. Dominic Reyes against Jarrett Cannonier. Pretty much what I expected. Two guys that hit very hard. I knew there was going to be a finish in there. I picked Cannonier in this fight. Obviously, I got it wrong, I will admit. One of the reasons was I thought Cannonier would be the better grappler in that fight, but never really got an opportunity to really try that. He was content to stand and be at range, which, even though there was a big height disparity, they actually had the same reach, which is pretty crazy. Cannonier is only 5'11". I think Dominic Reyes is like 6'5", and they both had a 77-inch reach, which is pretty crazy. But that height, that reach, he is the devastator for a reason. He set it up beautifully with that uppercut there, James, and just Cannonier can never really get his feet back under him. And Dominic Reyes, that's what he does. Another guy, much like Luque, he has a chance he sees the kill, he goes in there and gets it done. And a very impressive performance, and I think the best victory so far of his career. Yeah,
I mean, the fight itself, I don't think anybody expected this one to get out the first round. And the fight sort of went how I thought it would go. I mean, Cannonier is obviously, the reach is the same in their arms, that's discounting the legs and stuff like that, obviously. Cannonier's obviously a powerful guy, and he can put MD out in that weight class, but I think we've seen Cannonier move down to 185. I think he sort of alluded to that before it. Just to get the guys at 205, I think are just too big for him. And Dominic Reyes, hopefully, if he continues progressing, because the light heavyweight division needs more really talented guys. So I think Dominic Reyes, a couple of good performances, and we'll probably see him continue to progress. And a guy like that's good for the division as well.
Yeah. Now, some people may think this may be too quick, but I just think stylistically it would be an incredible fight. I actually think Dominic Reyes should fight Volkan Ozdemir next. I think with the power these two guys possess, I mean, people may think, oh, that may be too soon. We know Ozdemir doesn't have any grappling, so let's see Dominic Reyes. It's a guy coming off a loss. I think Reyes would take it. I legitimately think that would be a tremendous matchup, and I don't know how much more time Ozdemir needs to recover from the beating he took from DC, but I would love that fight. Like I said, I might be crazy, but I think that'd be a tremendous fight.
I agree it would be a good fight, but it's not a fight I think they'll make because the light heavyweight division's probably not as deep as it once was. So I think we may see Reyes fighting guys probably just a wee bit lower ranked than Ozdemir. It's a fight that I think might happen in the future, but I don't think it will happen. I don't think it will be anytime too soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, most likely he'll probably take on like Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah. For the UFC perspective, that probably makes a bit more sense, but who knows?
Or, you know, I know he was supposed to fight on this card. He was supposed to fight in the main event, but even Dominic Reyes against Shogun Rua, I think would be... Well, maybe they want to do that to Shogun.
well, the UFC, let's be honest, I'm not shy in doing that. To be honest with you, it sort of feels like they might be doing that with Cerrone a wee bit at the moment. But regardless of who you are, the UFC are not shy in taking a guy near the end of his career and throwing him into a young, dangerous fighter. Because they're not looking at, a lot of times, what a fighter's done for them. They're just looking at continually building.
Right.
So, that's something that I think we probably will see at some point. Reyes will probably fight one of the older guard to see where he's at.
All right, let's get to this co-main event, Tatiana Suarez against Alexa Grasso. Now, I picked Alexa Grasso. Obviously, I was proven tremendously wrong in this fight. Yeah. Not only that, one of the reasons I picked Grasso is because Suarez was such a huge favorite. That kind of got me surprised. She was the biggest favorite on this card, James, and that like kind of threw me for a loop because I was like, Alexa Grasso's like really good, you know what I mean? And so it really surprised me. Not so much that she was a favorite, but by that wide a margin. But obviously the odds makers, they knew something I didn't because I mean she came right out at Grasso from the start, was attacking her, getting her in bad positions, and eventually was able to take the back. And it really wasn't from Grasso like not knowing what to do. I just think Suarez is just that good of a grappler, and Grasso probably, I mean, she was prepared to grapple, but probably not to that level. I don't think she expected to be attacked like that. I mean, this was a very impressive performance, and it made me a believer. I wasn't sure if Tatiana Suarez was for real, but she is for real.
Yeah, I think that was a statement fight for Suarez. I personally, I didn't feel it was that much I didn't feel she was that much a favourite. I actually thought this was a bit of a pick'em fight. To be honest with you, I could see it being won by either fighter, but yep, Suarez just Grasso just couldn't do anything. She just couldn't do anything, and Suarez was just too good for her. She's certainly coming out this card, and she's going to be looked at now as a really strong prospect going forward.
I mean, there's a litany of fighters that she could take on next. I don't know if they would throw. I don't know. It actually would be a bad matchup for her in terms of Michelle Waterson. But Michelle Waterson, I think, is a name you could throw out there. I think even coming off a loss, I think a fight against Felice Herrig would be good. I'm not really sure where she's at in terms of 115, 125, but Claudia Gadelha is still out there. Obviously, Carolina Kowalkiewicz. I mean, I think that she can compete with those girls. I don't think that's that big of a stretch.
Well, I mean, she has to go in there, and if she wants to go to the top, she's going to have to compete. I don't think that Michelle Watson fight's that bad a matchup for her, to be honest. If she's in there, I think Claudia Gadelha, I think, is going to be tough. I think the one that would make most sense would probably be Felice Herrig. For me, anyway, that's the one I would be interested to see. But yeah, there's tons of fights out there for her, and at some point she'll probably fight every name you've just mentioned there. It's just a question of when.
Right. Main event of the evening, welterweight division, Kamaru Usman against Demian Maia. Pretty much how I thought this fight was going to go. As soon as I heard this fight was announced, again, got to give a lot of props to Demian Maia because right now I don't think there are too many people that want to face Kamaru Usman even on a full 8-week camp, let alone a 4-week camp. So you got to give a lot of props to Demian Maia for even booking a fight against Kamaru Usman. But this is just another bad matchup for Demian Maia, another guy who's big and strong, powerful, and a well-versed striker, and obviously a guy that's a tremendous wrestler. and that just seems to be Damian Maia's kryptonite.
Yeah.
And once again, there was no plan B for Damian Maia. He attacks strong wrestlers with wrestling-style takedowns. And when they don't work, he doesn't do anything else to supplement it. He doesn't do any crazy roll. He did jump guard once, but it was 10 seconds left in the round. I almost don't even count that. But when you got to do something different. Wrestlers know singles and doubles are coming. You got to do takedowns attempts that they don't see. And I understand he's 40, he's a gazillion-time jiu-jitsu champion, but how many times? I mean, I think I saw a stat, James. He's like 0-50 in his last 50 takedown attempts in his last 3 fights. Clearly, something is not working for you if you can't land 1 takedown out of 50 attempts.
Well, the problem with Maia is nobody will argue that his jiu-jitsu is some of the best jiu-jitsu that's ever been in MMA. But if you cannot get it to the floor, then you're screwed, basically. And yeah, you're right, Damian Maia's 40. He's not going to change. He doesn't really go for doubles. He likes to go for that single leg and try and dump them. But we've seen, if you look at who he's lost to, Usman, Covington, Woodley, they're all very similar in terms of their styles. Obviously, Weidman, he's a bigger version of that. They're all very, very high-level wrestlers who Maia just cannot get down. And they're good enough in the feet and powerful enough in the feet that, that's sort of, if you want to, that's the mould of guys that beat Damian Maia. And I think if you put Damian Maia in with a good enough guy that's sort of that style, he's always probably going to lose. Because he's not going to change. He hasn't. If he hasn't changed by now, I don't see him changing at this point in his career. And I fear Maia is now going to become a bit of a gatekeeper. He still beats a lot of guys, but if you're a good enough wrestler that you can prevent him going down, chances are you're going to be able to outstrike Maia on the feet. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get there's a risk of getting punched in the face, but at the end of the day, you're a cage fighter.
Yep.
You're gonna get hit in the face. You have to wrap your head around, I'm probably gonna get hit in the face. All right. I understand that's what you don't want to do, but you have to understand if you're in an MMA fight, you're gonna get hit. This is not a jiu-jitsu match, okay? And I'm a guy who trains jiu-jitsu. I love jiu-jitsu, but you have to wrap that around your head and realize I may have to eat 1 or 2 punches to get in a better position for myself, a better position to win the fight. So if plan A is to try a single leg or try a double leg and that's not working, plan B, try a roll for a leg, try the jump guard, try something flying crazy. You got to take risks because otherwise we get that for 25 minutes and you just get dominated and you're like, man, I can't believe I lost. Well, no crap. You got to take risks. Sometimes in MMA, you got to take risks. We talked about that fight, the very first fight of the night here for this card. Was that guy getting whooped, that Piles? Yes. Did he just try to roll and pull for that leg? Yes. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to do risks sometimes because what's the thing? What's if he rolls for that leg, James? He doesn't get it. The guy slips out to come back. But at least he went for something. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if it wouldn't have worked out for him. And Damian Maia just has, like, no willingness to try anything risky. And that's what's the unfortunate thing. I don't know if that would have made him a world champion against Tyron Woodley, but it sure as hell couldn't have hurt it because what was the alternative? Him getting shut down 0 for 23 against Woodley. That was the alternative in losing.
To be fair, I would argue that what he's doing against that style of fighter is more risky than anything else because ultimately it's losing him fights. That's the main risk you take. Obviously getting hurt, but the main risk you take is that you make a move that loses you the fight, and by doing the same thing consistently against this style of fighter, he's losing every time. So it's unfortunate. I don't think he'll change. I don't think there's a route to a title for Damian Maia again. So I think now if he's fighting on, it's maybe purely just to get another win under his belt or purely financial. But I don't unfortunately see Damian Maia ever contesting a title again.
All right, we had a question earlier from Lewis Smith about the Fabricio Verdum situation. Of course, it was just signed, I think, like Monday, maybe Sunday. Yeah. You see the post there from Alexei Olenek say he signed on to be the main event of the first UFC event in Russia. That's going to be in Moscow, September 15th. waiting on the opponent. Then we hear like literally the next day the opponent's Fabricio Verdum. Immediately got super excited. I mean, we have two of the best submission artists in all of mixed martial arts battling out against each other. Who wouldn't want to see that fight? And then literally the day after that, we then hear USADA pops Fabricio Verdum for a possible tainted substance, and of course is now going to be out of the main event. This, I hate to say I'm shocked, but again, here's a guy that's, you know, in his late 30s that just is coming off a fight where he kind of got whooped by Alexander Volkov. I mean, he had a couple of good rounds, but those were controlling rounds. They weren't from damage or really close to getting a submission. He got hit a lot from Alexander Volkov. So maybe he's trying to get that youthfulness back in. It like doesn't surprise me that this happened. I'm not saying a younger fighter can't obviously pop, but you know, when you olden guy trying to get back to the glory days of being a champion once again, doesn't surprise me too much. And I bet once they actually do the further testing, it probably will come out and was indeed positive. But it's just a shame because I think he was really starting to string together a lot of quality wins up until the Volkov fight. Had he got the Volkov fight, probably would be waiting for the winner of DC and Stipe. But now you add in that loss to Volkov coupled with this, it's looking like he might not fight for the title again because the window of him being really competitive at his age is closing, and it's closing fast. And if he had a year suspension on top of that, that doesn't bode well for him.
Yeah, it's hard to comment too much on it because we don't really know the ins and outs yet. It's definitely not a good look for Verdum. The only benefit he's got with his age is heavyweights seem to be able to go that bit older. They sort of peak a bit older than the lighter weight guys. So you tend to find the heavyweights can go on a bit longer. But yeah, if it comes back positive, I think that's not good for Verdum at that age, unfortunately. To be honest with you, I think this could kill his title shot if it turns out not to be tainted supplements or something of that nature.
All right, now this is the big news here for Bellator 200. Of course, it was supposed to feature a great rematch. Speaking of the heavyweight division, Roy Nelson against Mirko Cro Cop, but it has come out that he didn't just like damage his knee, James. I'm going to read off all the injuries that has happened to his knee here in the training, and he like shredded this thing. He has on his left leg, which is the left leg of cemetery fame from his Pride days. He tore his ACL, partially tore his MCL. He has a meniscal moral ligament, MFL tear, an LCL sprain, and a medium accrute ligament, a MAL tear. Ooh! And like I said, a guy that is already in his 40s, that's like completely shredding your knee. I mean, you can't do much worse than that.
Yeah, I mean, you saw pictures of him. Obviously, I think he must have had surgery, but it didn't look too good. And yeah, a guy his age. But let's just be clear, it's a guy his age who doesn't have USADA to worry about. So I won't say too much more than that. But he done really well in Japan, and so I think it just depends about the sort of time out. It sounds like Cro Cop's going to be out for quite a while. He'd obviously put himself quite a big win streak together. So yeah, it's a shame the fight's not going to go ahead. I think it would have capped off what's a pretty good card for Bellator. But unfortunately, Cro Cop's out. I know Roy Nelson stated that he would fight someone. He put a video out there saying that he was hoping he could get a fight. He would fight in the prelims, but obviously Bellator aren't going to use Roy Nelson in the prelims. Come on. So yeah, it's a shame. It puts a wee bit of a dampener on the card, but thankfully they've got quite a good card. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, and Colin commented, "I can hear James fine. I can understand him, so I don't think it's an issue. Is it an issue for you?"
No, it's not an issue at all. No, we're cool.
There's your answer. No, but like I said, unfortunate. Cro Cop is 43 officially. He does say that he wants to come back at some point and challenge Roy Nelson. We'll see. like you said, you mentioned USADA again. I still remember he said, "Hey guys, I think I'm gonna fail." They test him, then it finds out that he wasn't gonna fail. But since he said he was gonna get failed, they suspended him anyway. If we remember that whole thing.
Yeah.
So as far as we know, Crow Cop should be on the up and up. If he's such a good guy to say that he's gonna fail when he didn't. So hopefully this doesn't lead him to actually now taking something.
But it's just when you think of the Pride days, I mean, but it's no secret Pride openly had it in their contract. We do not test. So you just always think the Pride days, everything's a wee bit suspect back then. But yeah, whatever, man. Let's go.
Right. Hey, there might be a reason why he looks so good in Risen, right?
Yeah, it's all up for debate.
Right. All right, let's get to this main card here. I still think pretty solid. Obviously, it's going to kick off with a female fight. The one of the big hype stars here for Bellator, Anastasia Yankova, coming out of Russia, 5-0, take on former Ultimate Fighter contestant Kate Jackson. Yankova is 5-0 so far in her career. Kate Jackson still a very respectable record at 9-3 with one draw. Yankova has so far looked really good in her Bellator appearances. She's made 3 of them, winning all 3 of them. She's won the majority of her fights by submission with 3 submissions.
Yeah.
I will say, really, the only girl to me that was halfway decent was probably Veta Arteaga. That was her second Bellator appearance, which she won by split decision. Her other 2 fights, you could clearly tell those girls had no, really, to me, reason being in there with Yankova. Now taking on Kate Jackson, who, like I said, a very solid veteran, was featured on The Ultimate Fighter. I actually thought put up a pretty solid fight against Valerie Letourneau in her last fight, a fight where I actually didn't think Letourneau looked that good, to be quite honest. I actually think this is going to be a closer fight than probably a lot of people will think. I think Kate Jackson realized this is a great opportunity for her, and I think she's going to bring it to Yankova.
Yeah, just on the Valerie Letourneau fight, I was cage side for that one, so I was obviously covering media down at that one, and I think Valerie Letourneau, she sort of took her foot off the gas in that fight. Kate Jackson is a very, very good fighter. I think this is more. It's going to be difficult for Kate Jackson. I think she's really going to need. She'll certainly need to improve from her last fight, I believe, to win this one. I believe it's close. I don't know. I've been humming and hawing on this fight. I don't know who I think will win. Sort of back and forward. Again, it's just because. Sorry, on you go.
Yeah, it's very difficult because this is only the second time in Yankova's career that she's had to fight below 130 pounds. She made flyweight once. That was only her second fight, and that was someone tried to call me. Telemarketer. But she's only fought 125 pounds once. That was her second ever fight, and that was almost 3 years ago in October, and that was on the regional circuit there in Russia. So her 3 fights in Bellator have all been at a 130 catch weight. So I'm very interested to see whether or not she can actually make the 125-pound limit. I think that's a big deal, whether she's going to come out heavy or not. Coming to the grappling, I would say Yankova is probably overall the better grappler. Stand-up, I would say they're pretty even. In terms of height, they're about the same, but Kate Jackson should have a slight height and slight reach advantage. I'm just really intrigued because we haven't seen Yankova since April of last year, where she completely mollywopped this girl from Greece. So how has she progressed here in this past year? Because I think Kate Jackson has done very well post-Ultimate Fighter, even with that loss to Letourneau. So I think this is a really big deal, and obviously Bellator has invested a lot in hyping up Yankova. So I think this is going to be a very interesting fight.
Yeah, and what I would say is Kate Jackson has been in there with much tougher opponents, so that could be telling as well. This will be Yankova's toughest fight, I would say, to date. I think it's going to be a tough one for her. But it should be a good fight, and I'll let you know where both are at, where both Kate and her are So I'll maybe answer some questions for you and Kobe as well.
Let's see. This is a guy, a lot of people, obviously, you'll probably know a lot more about him than I do, James. But apparently he's a reality TV star in your neck of the woods. I'm talking about Mr. Aaron Chalmers, who's 3-0 so far in his mixed martial arts career. He's taking on Ashley Griffiths. However, a lot of people are saying, is this guy really credible? Because the guys he's taken on necessarily have not had a great combined record. Case in point, the guy he's taking on who's 4-6. So even though it's for Bellator, it doesn't seem like the style or skill of the opponents has changed. It looks like somebody on paper Chalmers should beat, but I don't really know. I've got this question asked a lot of me about. I really don't know legitimately how good this guy is. He has to certainly be tested. I'm not sure if this guy, Ashley Griffith, is going to be the guy that tests him, but we're going to find out on paper. It doesn't look like it, but we'll see. Obviously, you probably know a little bit more about the guy. Maybe you can share a little more personal thoughts on him. But obviously, what do you even think just in general, Bellator bringing this guy in?
Right. Well, first of all, I know there's been a lot of backlash against it because of with fighters and stuff, and I completely understand that. But this guy is a promoter's wet dream. The guy will put bums in seats. Now, as for how good is he, honestly, I don't know is the question. He's certainly got power in his hands, but I feel like he's obviously going to have to fight tougher guys before we can really find out where he's at. Obviously spoke to him recently. He seems to have he's moved over to Team Renegade, training with Tom Breeze. So he's putting a lot of work in his ground game. So he's doing the right things. And this is going to be his longest camp. And although on paper it doesn't look like it, this will be his toughest fight. I would say I still think it's a fight he'll win because effectively he's fighting Ash Griffiths, who realistically is a lightweight. So he's coming up a weight division. He does have some K1 experience. I believe he was a K1 champion, not Ash Griffiths, not Aaron. I think Aaron will win this fight. I think he's probably going to knock him out, to be honest. But I think they're bringing Aaron along slowly because it's down to the fact he's going to sell a lot of tickets. He was in Bama. When he was in Bama got a deal with ITV4, which is a big channel in the UK. With regards to Bellator, how it's shown in the UK, it's not really shown very well here. You never get to see it live, really. So you have to watch it the next day. Aaron Chalmers is signed. It is being shown on British TV, there's 5 main channels, or anyway. So it's been shown in one of them, so it's very accessible for people to watch. So from that point of view, although people might not like it, that's something that's certainly going to help British MMA, and it needs it because we don't have it broadcast well enough here to push our home shows. So if nothing else, Aaron Chalmers seems to be helping from that perspective. So I've got no issues with him. But in terms of how good a fighter he is, we're only going to find that out when he fights tougher guys. And at some point he will have to fight them. But I believe he'll win this fight. So yeah, that's about what I know about Aaron Chalmers. I don't watch his reality TV programming, though, but I have heard of him. And the ladies seem to like him. So yeah.
All right, this next fight here, I actually thought these two guys had fought before, but I guess they haven't. This is Phil Davis against Linton Vassell. I like Linton Vassell. Obviously, I think he's a very good fighter. I thought he looked really good in his fight against Liam McGarry, which was not that long ago.
No.
I want to say that Bellator, I want to get the number right. Yeah, that was Bellator 179. That was about this time last year, where I thought he completely dominated Liam McGarry. However, Phil Davis is not Liam McGarry.
No.
And so Phil Davis, obviously a former national champion wrestler at Penn State University, a guy who I think is still, I hate to say the word developing a stand-up. He's good at stand-up, but he doesn't really put you away. He's very much seems to develop kind of like a point style, but very dominant wrestler. I don't see Vassell really being able to stop Davis from taking him down. There's very few guys that have been able to do that to him. So I see that happening. to me, the question is Vassell a good enough submission guy to overcome that control of stand-up? Or can he actually stop the takedown and make it standing? Because if it stays standing, I would say this is a pretty wide open fight. I really wouldn't say Vassell's that much better at stand-up than Phil Davis.
Yeah.
But it goes to the ground. Davis is just so big and strong, and we know he can do this. This is only a 15-minute fight. We know he can do it for 25. So that to me is the X factor, is can Vassell stop the takedown? And if he does, it becomes a very interesting fight.
Honestly, I don't think he'll be able to stop the takedown. I think Phil Davis is just that good. And obviously, Phil Davis has got that. He's been wrestling since he was young. He's obviously a high-level wrestler. And where Phil Davis has struggled is against other really good wrestlers, which, not to say Linton Vassell isn't a very good wrestler, I just think Davis is better. And obviously, with regards to submitting him on the ground, I don't see that. So obviously, you can throw up for submission, stuff like that. But again, really, really a solid top game wrestler can sort of counter that as well. I think this might not be the most entertaining fight. I think it's going to be a frustrating fight for Vassell. I don't see a finish. I see it getting ground out, and I see a lot of fans that like the stand-up aspect of MMA maybe not loving this fight. But yes,
yeah,
Phil Davis he's just on a different level when it comes to his offensive wrestling.
And also, Phil Davis has never been finished in his 4 losses. So I said maybe he can catch the submission. So far, no one's really even been close to putting him away. All his losses are by decision, and a couple of them are very close split decisions.
But Linton Vassell, no doubt, has the ability to finish Phil Davis. And Linton Vassell is a bigger man, I believe. He looked, when I saw them facing off, Linton Vassell looked at, obviously Phil Davis, we know his physique's impressive. But Linton Vassell is, stature-wise, is a bigger man, I believe, than Phil Davis. Certainly looked that way when they were facing off. So, and I believe Linton has the ability to finish him. I just don't know if he'll get the opportunity to. So, yeah.
This next fight, does David Rickles have a chance? Put a percentage, because I think you add up moving up in weight, you add in just the style that Michael Page presents. I don't think anyone's really been able to figure this style out, and I'm not sure if David Rickles is the guy to do it. I mean, he's an aggressive guy. He's going to try to mix it up with MVP, but that to me is not how you beat this guy. And I think you weight aside, I think stylistically, this is a bad fight for David Rickles. I say he has like a 5% chance of winning this fight.
Right, so first, yes, he absolutely has a chance. Everybody has a chance, but kind of like the Aaron Chalmers sort of situation with regards to matchmaking, the same has sort of been said the MVP. Obviously, he's got a great highlight reel. He looks really good. He's a good person to bring eyes into the sport. So, sorry, I think the Bellator matchmaking's been smart for MVP. But I think Rickles has a chance, of course. I just don't. I think that this fight's been signed for MVP to win, basically, is what I think. They want to keep progressing him. I think he'll continue that. But I think in the long run, MVP is going to come across some very good, somebody that's very good in the feet but has extremely good wrestling, and I think that's when we'll see MVP having some issues.
You know, I know he's older now, James, but Bellator did just sign him. He took out another very good British striker not too long ago.
Yeah,
Do you think John Fitch against Michael Page might be in his future?
John Fitch would do, I believe, to Michael Page what John Fitch done in the UFC for a very, very long time, and that's get a hold of prospects and grind the hell out of them. And I think that would be a horrible matchup for MVP. His striking is fantastic, but John Fitch has had a couple of rough fights, but he was coming off some really, really difficult injuries that were making it very difficult for him to fight. I believe he couldn't take shots to the right side, or he would just shut completely down. And John Fitch looked good. I know Paul Daly got frustrated in that fight, but that's MMA. You have to be able to take down, and if you can't, there's no point in booing the guy that's on top of you. You're just going to have to accept the fact that if you're in that situation, you need to get yourself out of it. John Fitch is going to fight
Right.
how John Fitch fights, and yeah, I would say that's a horrible matchup for MVP, and I don't see it happening. Not yet. Anyway.
It is, but if he beats John Fitch, he gets so much respect. He gets so much credibility. Even at 40 years old, John Fitch, that would be a huge feather in MVP's cap.
It would. What? Do you think MVP could get that feather in his cap?
I don't think he beats John Fitch. I don't think that happens. But honestly, even if he takes the fight, I think that says a lot about him. Because you and I both know, and everybody knows, that's not a good fight for him. But if he actually signs on the dotted line, you got to give him even respect just for doing that, because everyone knows not a good fight for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're more likely make the Paul Daly fight already. Come on, MVP and Paul Daly. That's a better fight for him. It's a day because Paul Daly's power is.
It's the bigger ratings fight too.
Yeah, certainly over in the UK, it's going to do good numbers. So I feel like that's maybe a fight that they'll make, depending on how things shake out with Paul Daly, obviously. But yeah, it's good to see John Fitch getting into Bellator, and he's doing well. And I think John Fitch is going to do well in Bellator.
Also, one other fight, it was supposed to happen, I think, a while ago, but some injuries, I think, ended up not happening. But I still would like to see MVP against Brendan Ward.
Yeah.
I don't know I know Brendan Ward's kind of had some ups and downs in his career, but he's still a guy that, is a very big, strong welterweight, has some wrestling skills, and obviously has a lot of power in that right hand. Yeah. So if that could ever happen at some point, I think that would be a tremendous fight as well. Yeah,
I would agree, absolutely. Well, let's see how he does with Rickles, first of all.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, this main event here, Gegard Mousasi, Rafael Carvalho. Carvalho is coming off a, let's see, was it just Manhoef? I feel like he fought someone else in there. Oh, yeah, okay. I almost forgot because it was a horrible matchup. He beat Alessio Sakara in December of last year, a fight that never should have been made. But at least it was a fight where he went and did what he had to do. It was a guy he should have beat, a guy he should have finished, and he finished him in 45 seconds. So at least good on Carvalho. He did that. And obviously he looked way better in his second Melvin Manhoef fight than he did in the first one, which I still don't know what was going through his head, what was going through Manhoef's head. I still don't even know how Manhoef didn't win. Anyways, he seems to that was I guess just a momentary lapse in mental judgment for the Brazilian. He seems to be doing a lot better. However, he's taking on a guy who's like really good, like super good. However, Gegard didn't look that great in his Bellator debut. Alexander Shlemenko went toe-to-toe with him. I know it was Mousasi probably would say, the eye of the thing, if that wouldn't have happened, but it did happen. And he did not look very good. In my opinion, I actually probably would have scored him losing that fight, in my honest opinion. However, he got the victory. This is the fight I think we all wanted to see, Gegard fighting for the middleweight title. We get it against Carvalho. I think the biggest difference is actually going to be the grappling. Gegard, a lot of people focus on his stand-up, but he has a lot of submission victories. Is very crafty off his back. I think that's the X factor, because I think Carvalho is not as well versed in those positions, and I think standing, Gegard has to watch out for that leg kick. That's Carvalho's bread and butter. He switches up very well. He'll go to the leg, he'll go to the body, then to the head. He does so very well. He doesn't telegraph it. You really don't know where it's coming. You think it's low, it's high. You can ask Melvin Manhoef, because that's what he did to him with that head kick knockout. So I think if Gegard can actually use his boxing, cut that range down to try to make that leg kick not as existent, really getting close, use his great boxing, use his great tie striking with his knees, I think he can win. But if it stays at range, at a nice range where Carvalho can easily kick that leg, kick the body, Carvalho has a very good chance of winning this fight, even finishing Gegard Mousasi.
Carvalho, I believe, has just never fought anyone as good as Gegard. Obviously, he's had the fights with Sicario, Manhoef. I think Gegard still is one of the best middleweights in the world. On his day, I think he could be the best middleweight in the world. I think he's going to be slicker on the feet than Carvalho, and I agree he's all round, I think, a better fighter. And I mean, if you look through his last fights, yeah, he didn't look fantastic against Shlemenko. But look at his other fights. Obviously, the last loss he had was Uriah Hall, which I think he remedied that, and put an exclamation point at to say that was a bit of a fluke, the first one. Yeah, I mean, when I was looking through Gegard's record, it seemed to see some of the names like Fedor.
The Chris Weidman fight, he was tremendous in.
Yeah, tremendous there. He obviously lost to Lyoto. I think his first fight he beat Ilir Latifi, light heavyweight, and he's went from strength to strength. I just think Gegard's still in his prime. I think he's at the top of his game, and I think this is where we're going to see the difference in levels coming in. And I just think Gegard's just going to be too. Obviously, he could lose the fight. There's ways for him to lose, and not to discredit Carvalho, but I just think Gegard's going to be too strong, too smart, just too slick all round for him. Whether he gets a finish, I think you're right in the sense that if he gets a finish, I could see him snatching a neck in a transition or down the ground. But yeah, I think this is going to be the breakout fight for Musashi and Bellator to make up for that Shlemenko performance, which, going by his standards, wasn't great.
Absolutely. I think Gegard can very much win this fight. I think he is tremendously skilled, as you said, James. He has to be not quite on his P's and Q's. I don't mean like he has to fight perfect or something like that, but he really has to be cognizant of that leg. He can't shrug off that leg kick. He can't just think that's not going to do damage. He can't think like, oh, I'm just going to go in there and I can eat it. I'm going to deal with that. To me, he has to have a plan for that. You would think he would. I mean, I think he's a guy that does control range very well. He has good movement in and out. But he also has to be able to check those if needed, because if you're not going to check those, he can eat you up alive. Yeah. And I really think that's the key. I'm not saying Cavalli has no other weapons, but that's his weapon, and it's very good, and he's going to use it. There's not too much of a plan B for Carvalho. It's not like, well, if the leg kicks don't work or the switch, I'm going to do this. That's really where he builds his whole offense as he works everything in there. The boxing, the clinch work, all of that is through the leg kicks. But Gegard has a lot more other weapons. He can do other options, but he has to be very cognizant of that, because that's one of those things where you go, oh, I'm going to deal with that, and then all of a sudden you could get in the fight and you're like, well, I guess I didn't think I would deal with it as well as I could have. And that as long as he can deal with that, I think overall he is the better fighter and probably should win this fight. But he has to watch out for that. Yeah,
I think he's too smart a fighter as well not to have addressed that. That's going to 100% be something they're focused on. They've probably looked at Carvalho as well and identified that as a strength for him. And I think that's something they'll absolutely combat. So yeah, but we'll see what happens in the fight. I do believe everything's written for Gegard to win this belt. That's what I think anyway.
All right, can you stay a few more minutes, James, to talk about this Liverpool card, or do you have to go?
I could probably, if you want to do the main event first, I can give you that. If you want to just do Will Thompson straight off the bat, I can do that.
Yeah, let's do the main event with you, and then I'll roll through the rest and let you go, because I know it's obviously time zone and difference. It's there, but let's get to the main event, because that's the fight people want to talk about, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Stephen Thompson. Yeah, Stephen Thompson against Darren Till. I feel like this fight was booked like 6 months ago. That's how long it seems like we've been hearing these two possibly fighting again. It was potentially supposed to happen in March in England for the UFC, but we get it here in Liverpool, and I think for Darren Till, works out even better for him as far as a hometown advantage, as that actually is his hometown. 16-0 with the one draw is Darren Till against Wonderboy Thompson, 14-2-1. And really, to me, the biggest key in this fight is, can Darren Till deal with that sideways style? Can he figure that out? Can he figure out the in-and-out movement? Can he deal with that? Can he deal with the speed of Stephen Thompson? Can he deal with the kicks, the wheel kicks? Can he deal with a slower pace fight? Because I would very much say Darren Till is not a guy that fights at a slower pace. Because that's very much the pace Stephen Thompson likes to fight. If he can make it more of a Darren Till fight, if he can make it more upbeat, if he can catch Stephen Thompson, not standing, I guess, north-south, but make him try to move more east-west, get his back foot up against the cage where he doesn't have that room. Can he pressure him? I know you can't corner him like a boxing ring, but that's really what he needs to do. He needs to create those angles and strike off the angles, because you can't strike Stephen Thompson straightforward. He's going to move back. He can angle away, and he'll probably hit you with some crazy kick or something. You got to be able to attack him from angles. I believe Darren Till can, but a lot of people I thought could, and they haven't. I mean, I thought Jorge Masvidal would be able to do that, right? He got eaten alive by Stephen Thompson. So I really think that's the big key of this fight is Darren Till comfortable sliding to the left and the right and throwing not just punches that touch, but powerful punches. If he can figure that timing and distance out, he can be successful. But if he can't, it's either going to be a long 25-minute where he gets just outpointed and he has no answer, or he's going to catch a wheel kick.
I mean, I was sort of back and forward with this one. I did say I predicted that I believe Darren Till will get this fight win, and I think he'll finish Thompson. Obviously, if you look at Darren Till's record, he's only really finished Cerrone, so he's not got a ton of finishes. But I believe after that Cerrone win, the confidence is there. Also, what I really would like to know is what size the octagon are they using? Are they using the larger size, or are they using the smaller size? Because I think if this fight goes the distance, I think there's only one person that's going to win a decision, and I think that is Thompson. But I get what you're saying there about can Darren Till obviously fight at Thompson's pace. Thompson likes to slow things down, but then again, Thompson is going to have to deal with. If you look at Jorge Masvidal and some of the guys Thompson's fought, they're just not as big as Till. Till is obviously, in terms of stature, height, reach, and everything's the same as Thompson, but he's physically a bigger man, and Thompson can certainly knock somebody out, but I don't see Thompson knocking anybody out with the hands. It's only with those feet, whereas Till seems to have a bit more dangerous weapons in terms of how he can finish a fight. Plus the home crowd, for all that, I just feel that there's a finish in this for Till. If it goes to the judges, I would say it's probably going to be Thompson's fight, but I don't see that happening. But I would really like to know the size of cage they're going to use. I think that could play a factor as well. If it's a smaller cage, it would suit Till. The bigger cage would suit Thompson.
Now, I tried to find what the size of the cage will be. I couldn't see any information. I don't know how familiar you are with this arena in Liverpool. Would you say it's a bigger size arena, or would you say it's more intimate? Or
it's a good size arena. It depends how they set it up. The problem is we've never had a UFC event there. You don't know, but I think the size of the cage can certainly be significant in this fight. And I know you were saying that obviously you can't get them cornered up. We have to remember that obviously the Bellator cage is completely round, so there's absolutely no way you can corner somebody off.
It's very hard to do that in that cage.
Yeah, the octagon technically does have corners in it where you can trap fighters. You obviously need to be very good and very fast to get in. But yeah, I mean, this is a great fight. I think whichever way it goes, I think we're hopefully in for a real treat. But this could be a massive fight it's a massive fight for both guys, obviously. And I think it has some sort of title implications. If Till wins this fight, he could potentially be fighting. I mean, we've got the interim title fight coming up soon. I don't know where Woodley's at with his recovery. So we've got, it's going to be a good fight, I believe. Fantastic fight, actually.
Before I let you go, I want to get your thoughts on this, because this is, if it all plays out like you said, how it should play. Woodley faces the winner of Colby Covington versus RDA later this year. So then we would need a new number one contender. I believe Kamaru Usman, with his win over Damian Maia and the fact he's won 8 wins in a row, puts himself in a very good position. I think Usman fights the winner of this fight, Darren Till against Stephen Thompson. Then that winner faces the winner of Woodley/RDA/Colby Covington. In a perfect world, that's how it should go, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's absolutely correct, and that's it. And the problem with that is, if you say Thompson wins and then Thompson goes against Kamaru Usman, we've got three guys that are in that sort of circle there. Out with obviously RDA, Till, and God Almighty, RDA Till. But we've got three sort of similar style fighters in the sense of Woodley, Usman, and obviously Covington. They're all that similar style. All three have beat Damien Maya. But what I would be curious to see is how. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought a wee bit there. How Thompson would do against Usman. Would we see a similar fight as we saw against Woodley? And so I don't.
Right.
I think I would rather
Absolutely.
put Till and Usman in there as opposed to Thompson and Usman. So I think it would be a very, very similar fight to the one we saw against Woodley.
All right. He is James Hamilton. James, thanks for coming on and helping me out.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
it. And everyone, again, check out. He's always doing interviews on MMA UK Facebook page. So look out for him. So thanks for coming on, James. Appreciate it.
No problem at all, mate. I'll speak to you later, Jim.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Was James Hamilton, everybody, helping me out here a little bit on the show, helping me out here with the main event of UFC Liverpool. Again, very excited for this mashup. We broke that down, but real quickly, I'm going to go over the other 5 fights and then, of course, get to my official picks here for UFC Liverpool. It's kicking off in the middleweight division as Darren Stewart takes on Eric Spicely. Eric Spicely's a very good submission guy. He's kind of had some ups and downs in the UFC. Obviously, he lost his debut to Sam Alvey, actually getting submitted. He then was able to beat Thiago Santos, huge upset, submitting him in the first round, which netted him a submission night. Then he took on Alessio De Chirico, again, not well versed in submissions. He gets the submission there. Next 2 fights, took on some better competition. I think, loses to Antonio Carlos Jr., gets suspended. Gets submitted by him. Antonio Carlos Jr. is really good, obviously, and also is a huge middleweight. Runs into Gerald Meeschart, the guy who's an incredible striker, was able to stop the takedown, and you could just tell was the better striker in this fight. And, Darren Stewart's a guy who definitely has a lot of power. A guy who, while having a lot of power, hasn't really been able to turn that into success. His one win was overturned against Francimar Barroso back in 2016. He then lost they ran that one back, then lost the decision to Barroso. Then he took on Carl Robertson, or Carl Roberson rather, the kickboxer, ends up getting submitted by him, and then has an incredible fight against Julian Marquez, but comes up short getting submitted there. Now taking on another guy that's really good at submissions in Eric Spicely. That it doesn't bode well for Stewart. I mean, and Stewart also, even though he's fighting in his home country, he's also probably fighting for his job. I mean, technically, he's 0-3 with a no contest in the UFC. And even though he's had some exciting fights, he's been on the losing end of every single one of those fights. So he needs a win. He's going to be desperate. And sometimes when you're desperate, you maybe do some things you shouldn't do, and that leads you into a guy like Eric Spicely who might be able to capitalize on that and end up getting a submission. So, I don't know. I think this is a very intriguing fight. I think Darren Stewart has a lot of skill. I think he has a lot of potential, but just really hasn't been able to put it all together at once. He's ran into some tough guys as well, but Eric Spicely's a guy I think he's good enough to beat, but we'll see if he can actually do it on Sunday evening. Davey Grant against Manny Bermudez. This is going to be coming in the bantamweight division. Davey Grant's the guy that did compete for the Ultimate Fighter finale on his season of the Ultimate Fighter. That was the Rousey-Tate season. That was all the way back in 2013. Since then, he's only fought twice in the UFC, going 1-1. He had a win over Marlon Vera, which was pretty big at the time, in 2016, and then lost his last fight to Damian Stasiak. That was back in October of 2016. So it's nearly been about 18 months since we've seen Davey Grant, and he's a guy who is skilled, is talented, but I don't like the layoff coming against the guy who I think right now is probably one of the more underrated prospects here in the bantamweight division, in Manny Bermudez, who's 12-0, just one win in the UFC, but I thought in an incredible fight, a fight that he did win by submission against Albert Morales back February of this year. I think is a guy that, right now he's I guess not to say the new hotness, but he's definitely a guy that has a lot of momentum for him. Davey Grant is a guy that's trying to kind of recapture what he had. Like I said, he's been around the game. He's a veteran. He is fighting in his home country. A lot of things going for him, but again, kind of like Darren Stewart, hasn't really been able to prove and show it at the UFC level. And he's taking on a guy right now who has a lot of confidence, like I said, coming off, I think, a very good performance and win, a finish win, 12-0. I don't know if he's a guy that relishes being the bad guy, but if he can relish that, if he can't if the crowd doesn't get to him, not only that, he's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage as well as a 2-inch reach advantage. Again, David Gray has a lot to prove. I don't know. I think skill-wise, he's probably just as good as Manny Bermudez, but confidence can do a lot for a guy. And I think Manny Bermudez is a guy that probably has a lot more confidence heading into this matchup. And a loss doesn't nearly hurt him as bad as it does Davey Grant, a guy who, again, has been in the UFC since 2003, but has only fought 3 times. So another loss for him might be on his way out. So again, a lot of pressure on Davey Grant here in this matchup. Jason Knight against Makwan Amirkhani. Oh my gosh, these two guys are very good at submissions. Of course, Jason Knight has been dubbed Hick Diaz. Amirkhani has a boatload of submissions. And so far in the UFC, 3-1. He lost a very close fight to Arnold Allen, in his last fight. However, that was over a year ago. It's been a while since we've seen Amirkhani. However, he's taking a guy who he comes at you. He's full force. He's right in your face. 4-3 though so far in the UFC. His last 2 fights have not really gone his way. He jumped up on short notice and took on one of the best guys in the world in Ricardo Lamas. Got caught and got knocked out. His next fight against Gabriel Benitez, it didn't seem like that was the same Jason Knight. I don't know if that knockout shook his confidence, if he was hurt coming into that training camp. But I think Jason Knight on most days should beat a guy like Gabriel Benitez. That's not to say Gabriel Benitez is bad, but Jason Knight is skilled enough to beat Gabriel Benitez. And he didn't have it that night. So I'm very interested to see how Jason Knight comes out, because it's one thing to lose, like the Ricardo Lamas say. It's one thing to lose to one of the best guys in the world and he got knocked out. It happens, right? But the way he lost his last fight, like I said, was more on him than it was on his opponent. So I'm really interested to see how he comes out in this fight, because standing up, he should have a huge advantage against Amirkhani. Grappling-wise, I would say they're pretty similar in terms of skill. Maybe Amirkhani's a little better, but Jason Knight, he throws up his legs at tricky angles. He's very long for this weight class. I do think it's going to be a ground war. It's just a matter of how many shots can Mr. Finland take on the feet before taking Jason Knight down. And really for Amirkhani, he has to battle it out on the ground, because I don't think you really want to stand with Hick Diaz. And also, nothing in Amirkhani's past fights show me that he's ready to stand with somebody like Hick Diaz. So I think that's the very interesting fight. Where is Jason Knight's head at? How has Amirkhani progressed in this past 14 months that he's been off? And if it does what we think it will do when it goes to the ground, who's going to be the better grappler? Because I'm not really sure. I think probably if you went to a straight jiu-jitsu competition, Amirkhani's probably the better pure jiu-jitsu guy. But Jason Knight is a very good jiu-jitsu guy from mixed martial arts. So I think this is a really great matchup. Both guys are coming off losses. Both guys, I think, need to reestablish themselves in a very good featherweight division. And I think it's going to be a tremendous fight. I'm really excited for this one. I think this is a very under-the-radar fight. And if Jason, win or lose, Jason Knight is typically a guy that is fight of the night or performance of the night. He has 3 of those so far of his 7 UFC fights. So if anything, it should be entertaining nonetheless. Speaking of that man, Arnold Allen, again, he's coming off that big win over Amirkhani in his last fight, 12-1, as he takes on Mads Burnell in a matchup in the featherweight division. Like I said, Arnold had that big win over Americani. A lot of people wasn't sure if he could beat Americani. He did. However, again, hasn't fought since then. And even though he debuted in the UFC in 2015, has only fought once a year. Once in 2015, once in 2016, once in 2017. I always find that very intriguing. And as far as I know, I don't think he got hurt after the Americani fight. But very good, obviously proved that he's a guy that can go in there and grapple with one of the best in the world. Obviously, showed that he had better stand-up than Americani in his last fight. And coming into this fight against Mads Burnell, this is an interesting fight because Mads debuted against Michel Prazeres, lost, got submitted in the third round. Okay, I don't know how much you can actually take away from that fight. Prazeres is a guy who's a really big, wide, and very skilled 155er. Obviously, a guy in his debut, that's a tough matchup. Obviously, they're forcing Prazeres up to 170. Obviously, Matt's now going down to 145, so you can see how he would have a lot of trouble with somebody like that. However, he rebounded in January of this year, taking out Mike Santiago, winning that fight by unanimous decision. And this is a fight where I think I would say Arnold should be the favorite. He should be the win. I think Mads showed some good grappling in that fight, but I don't think Mike Santiago is as good as Arnold Allen. Also, when you look at the size difference, Arnold's going to be slightly taller, but other than that, they're about the same. I also think Arnold's probably the better finisher of the two, as Mads has 0 knockout victories of his 9 professional wins. I think that's a really big deal. So I think it's going to be, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I would lean towards Allen just because I'm not sure. I haven't seen enough for Mads Burnell to be like, yeah, he's ready to beat somebody like Arnold Allen. And I think if Mads does win, I think it'd be a pretty big upset. I don't know what the odds are, but I think that'd be a pretty big upset. Co-main event, Neil Magny against Craig White. This is a short notice fight. Craig White, good luck. Neil Magny's a very good guy. He's a huge welterweight. He has an 80-inch reach. A guy that can be suffocating at times. Is a very tricky guy standing up. He likes to throw a lot of punches and bunches. He's very technically sound. And good luck to Craig White, because I don't think you have much of a chance here in this one. And of course, I already talked about the main event between Darren Till and Stephen Thompson with James Hamilton. So with that said, let's get into picks here for UFC Liverpool. Eric Spicely against Derek Stewart, kicking things off in the middleweight division. I'm going to go Eric Spicely. I think his submission skills are going to be the difference maker in this fight, and Darren Stewart has had a penchant for getting submitted lately, so I'm going to go with Eric Spicely in this one. Davey Grant against Manny Bermudez. Going Manny Bermudez. I think his last fight, even though it was his debut, I think he showed that this guy is definitely legit. He's ready for the UFC. And Davey Grant, I think if he can turn this into a grappling match, up close and personal, I think he might have a chance. But if it stays standing, I definitely or if it stays at range, I would say Manny Bermudez can win this one. Jason Knight against Makwan Americani. Going Jason Knight. I feel like, even though I'm a big fan of Americani, I haven't seen the development in his stand-up skills to say that he can beat somebody like Jason Knight. So I'm going with Jason Knight, but I'm really going to be interested to see how Jason Knight comes out, because his last fight, it just didn't seem like he was mentally there. I don't know if he was still shaking off after effects of the knockout by Lamas, but I'm really interested to see how Jason Knight comes out, because I think this is a fight he should be able to win. Arnold Allen against Mads Burnell. I'm going Arnold Allen. I don't know why I'm having trouble saying his name, but Arnold Allen in this one, I'm picking him. I'm going with Neil Magny. And then I broke it down with James. I think stylistically, I got to go Stephen Thompson. I really like Darren Till. I think he's a really extremely talented individual. He definitely is for real. But Stephen Thompson is such a specialist. I think he's such a hard guy to prepare for. I'm not sure if Till will be able to do enough things to throw Stephen Thompson off his game, so I'm going to go with the Wonder Boy Stephen Thompson as this one. All right, thanks to James Hamilton for joining me earlier on this evening, and of course helping break down the main event of UFC Liverpool, talking Bellator 200 as well as UFC Chile with me. I'll be back next week as well, breaking down this fight, and of course talking about all your burning questions and anything else in the world of mixed martial arts. Again, I'm Jim Graham. You can follow me on Twitter at Jim Graham. You're watching live right here on Facebook. That's facebook.com/MMA World with 2 extra Ds. Check out our host page, MMA UK. That's MMAUK.net. On Facebook, facebook.com/Mixed Martial Arts UK. And on Twitter and Instagram at We Are MMA UK. So for James Hamilton, I am Jim Graham. Thank you for listening to another edition of Beyond the Cage. Goodbye, everybody.